Hello and welcome to ANC Decides, the show that gives you up-to-the-minute reports, commentary and analysis building up to the ANC's December elective conference. I'm your host, Mfundo Mabalani. Now let's take a look at your headlines. Pietermaritzburg High Court reserves judgment in the KZN PC appeal against nullification. The High Court has set aside the PC's election at the disputed 2015 conference. Eastern Cape Provincial General Council sits amid disputes over the election of the current PC. Province awaits a court ruling on the October elective conference, which turned chaotic. And fallout over the Free State PC's mandate continues after the verdict that postponed the elective conference. Deputy Chairperson slams the PGC, which endorses Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma. The stakes are high in the ANC succession race, and all contenders are pulling out all the stops to finish best. Almost all provinces have disputes or court battles to go through on the rocky road to the national conference. Eastern Cape has seen the most fiercest battle for dominance. KwaZulu-Natal also has its own fair share of legal wrangles. The Free State PC has, on the other hand, been dealt a big blow by a High Court ruling. The big question is, what does this say about the ANC's electoral process? Is the party due for an overhaul to enable it to balance quest for power and policy?
The ill-conceived NEC elected at Mangaung produced on its watch the crisis of illegitimate provincial executive committees. That in turn oversaw the election of, or the creation of poor regional regional executive committees, and in turn destroyed the branch structure in the main.
Does not discourage healthy competition for positions of leadership and responsibility, such as competition must not take away the fundamental right of branches to decide on the leadership of the ANC. Our electoral processes are well documented in documents such as Through the Eye of the Needle. They are designed to help the branches to produce the best quality of leaders in whom our entire membership and country in general can have confidence. At times, those who have not gone through the eye of the needle expose themselves by conduct.
Now on to the Eastern Cape. The Eastern Cape Provincial General Council has kicked off amid divisions over preferred presidential candidate. Newly elected provincial chairperson Oscar Mabuyane appealed for unity as the province heads to the 54th conference. The faction that disputed the outcomes of the provincial elective conference. Meanwhile, ANC Treasurer General and presidential candidate Zweli Mkhize said the party should unite in order to win the 2019 elections. It now remains to be seen if the province will go ahead to the national conference as a united bloc.
As a province, we should go into the conference with the aim of electing a capable 54th NEC of the African National Congress, who will be able to unite the organization and carry out the mandate given to it by the conference. We should elect leadership comrades collectively that will be able to drive our second and more radical phase of economic transformation. We should elect leadership that is committed to the alliance and shared national democratic revolution. There are comrades who continue to deliberately not to attend the provincial executive committee meetings because they go public and say they don't accept the PEC, even against the advice they were given by NWC officials here to say it is not your responsibility to say so. We call upon those comrades, particularly those who are leading the state. We have a problem with comrades who are leading the states, senior comrades of our movement, who are always missing in the action. We continue engaging on policy discussions. Key people who are deployed by the African National Congress are not showing an interest, or they prioritize other things. This cannot be allowed.
We now cross over to reporter Nomusa Pungula, who's out in the Eastern Cape. Nomusa, warm welcome to you. Now, the PGC has, in fact, kick-started, but it seems that the legitimacy of the PEC is still all the talk. What exactly are some of the issues today?
Well, good evening, Fundo, and good evening to our viewers at home. Well, indeed, the PGC, or the special PGC of the Eastern Cape, has kick-started on a very high note, receiving words of welcome from the chairperson of the province, as well as the keynote address from the Treasurer General of the African National Congress, who emphasized the goal of unity within the African National Congress, who also mentioned that it is important that the African National Congress uses the elective conference in December to self-correct and also make sure that they come out united rather than using the conference for a situation where it's going to be a do or die for some people, but however use it for a win-win situation. Now, speaking about the PGC of the Eastern Cape, indeed the numbers have come out. The Eastern Cape has taken a decision. The Eastern Cape has officially announced who exactly is their preferred candidate, particularly for the top six. Just to take you through, Mfundo, I'm joined by the Secretary General or the Secretary of the province, Lula Mangugaitobi, just to take us through the numbers, or preferably the people that were nominated by the ANC in the Eastern Cape. Nobala, we understand that the African National Congress in the Eastern Cape has continuously said that they are in support of Cyril Ramaphosa as the president of the African National Congress come December. Can you please just take us through the rest of the people that were nominated by the branches?
Yeah, thanks very much. The Eastern Cape today held its own Provincial General Council with an intention to consolidate the work of the branches as they continue to have their own branch general meetings. Today, they have expressed unequivocally that they support Cyril Ramaphosa as the president candidate. Secondly, the branch of the Eastern Cape has also endorsed Comrade Zweli Mkhize as the deputy president, with Gwede Mantashe as the national chairperson, with Senzo Mchunu as a preferred candidate for Secretary General, with Zingisa Losi as a preferred candidate to be a Deputy Secretary General, with Paul Mashatile as a preferred candidate to be a Treasurer General of the African National Congress. We are happy with the result. It shows the democratic will and wishes of the branch of the Eastern Cape, and we are going to use this particular outcome as a platform to talk to other provinces with a clear mandate from the branch of the Eastern Cape of what they want as a preferred leadership of the ANC.
Well, thank you so much, Nopala. That was the African National Congress in the Eastern Cape Secretary Lula Mangugaitobi taking us through all the top six that was nominated by the Eastern Cape. But just to refresh the memories of our viewers in Fundo, these are just nominations, so it remains to be seen in the elective conference if this nomination of the Eastern Cape will be supported by other provinces. But lastly, Mfundo, just to take you through the numbers, we saw that Cyril Ramaphosa received 423 nominations when NTZ received 61 nominations. But also we saw that for Deputy President, Zweli Mkhize receiving 193, which was quite surprising compared to David Mabuza, who received 190 nominations. But we also saw Paul Mashatile, who received 416 nominations, as well as Senzo Mchunu with 408 nominations, with Zingiswa Losi 172, and lastly Paul Mashatile 449, Gwede Mantashe with 416, Fundo.
No, thank you very much, Nomusa, for that update. She's out in the Eastern Cape where the PGC has concluded. Now, today in studio, we're joined by political analyst Jackie Shandu. Jackie, a warm welcome to you.
Good afternoon to you, Fundo.
It's always a pleasure to have you with us.
Sure.
Now, just judging on what was said there by the Secretary, when we're talking about Mugaitobi, he goes on to say that they were merely pronouncing on or consolidating, they were consolidating the numbers or outcomes from the BGMs. And it seems many have been reporting what we saw with the Free State.
Right.
They were saying that this is now the position of the PEC, but they're going to say, no, it's not our position. We're not endorsing. We're merely now pronouncing on the outcomes of the various BGMs. This is their preference, not ours. What is your take on just that argument that seems to have emerged?
Well, I don't understand where it emanates from, because what the PGC does, it puts together leaders of branches, and more often than not, it's the people who will be delegates at the elective conference in Nasrec. So, in a sense, it does become representative of the feelings or the will of the people of that particular province. To say delegates of the Free State or the Eastern Cape met and to find themselves so that they move as a unit, as a collective, and speak with one voice at the elective conference to say our position as the Eastern Cape, as KwaZulu-Natal or Gauteng, you know? So there's a lot of lobbying that has went on. But I mean, it's disappointing for a province like the Eastern Cape, the poorest province in the country, to not align itself with the radical economic transformation agenda. Because you look at the gap in terms of...
We've heard, Jackie, a number of the NEC members saying the RET belongs to no candidate. It is a policy of the ANC or project or program of the ANC. So it cannot be possessed by one particular candidate. So are you saying maybe by endorsing Cyril Ramaphosa, then they are not aligning themselves to RET?
But Cyril Ramaphosa has unpacked, has articulated his vision, his plan, the so-called New Deal, you know, in Soweto not long ago, which is just a regurgitation. It's this neoliberal project rehashed. It's going to be business as usual, you know, whereas this country, I think even people of different ideological persuasions, different philosophical conceptions, different political outlooks agree that for South Africa to move forward, for this democracy to be preserved and these institutions to be protected, we are going to need a fundamentally different way.
Let's quickly just rope in Richard Shamali, who's joining us via Skype. Richard, a warm welcome to you. Now, perhaps to start you from the beginning, we've been talking about all the disputes and litigation, and people use this phrase, the centre cannot hold. They're mostly labelled naysayers or alarmists, but the disputes and litigation has in fact reached unimaginable proportions. Do you not believe perhaps it's time to consider electoral reforms such as one member, one vote?
Well, I mean, it's obviously always time to consider that when the foundations start to crack and fall. But it doesn't necessarily mean that that will be as successful or more successful in the current system. I mean, it is time to possibly reconsider the way of going about things, but it's also time to consider necessarily why people are running to court and what the systems are that create that process. I recall well, days gone by when ANC elective conferences used to happen. I mean, there was lobbying, there was a lot going on. And when it eventually got to the PEC, it was basically a rubber stamping exercise because all the lobbying had happened in the years leading up to it. But now that lobbying is done at the final hours, which is why we're seeing a lot of urgent court interdict and court actions happening in the run-up to the December elective conference.
But is it not a situation where they're trying to perhaps stifle debate, or perhaps for those that are competitive or ambitious to say, no, we're going to leave it until the very last moment. We don't want you to focus on leadership as yet. We've got other issues to deal with.
Well, it could be argued the opposite way. In fact, it could encourage more rigorous debate, because when you go to court and they go to court on an urgent basis, you have to go to court more than once. So to win the urgent action, you have to go and prove your case on a balance of convenience, which is relatively easy to prove. And then you have to come back a couple of months later when the urgency is gone and reaffirm your case and prove it on a balance of probabilities. And all this time, you're leaving yourself open in court to discover documents and to discover evidence, which is all public once it gets to the court. So therefore, it opens up a lot of potential skeletons in the closet, old...
Now on to the KZN. Now judgment has been reserved in KZN PC's bid for an appeal against the ruling that nullified its election. This remains a shadow over the province's delegation to the National Conference. The High Court has set aside the 2015 elective conference outcomes, citing irregularities that breached the ANC's constitution. The conference saw Sihle Zikalala unseat Senzo Mchunu as the provincial chairperson. The jury is now out on who will lead KZN to the National Conference as the province awaits the final verdict.
Our legal team was able to show the court that this is a mere delaying tactics. A question was asked to the opposing side as to why are they not taking the matter directly to the Concord, and they have failed to come with reasonable arguments as to why are they still trying to go to the SCA, appealing, and we have shown as well that this delay it won't benefit us as applicants. Don't forget that we have won the case on the 12th of September. The court nullified these people.
We'll continue discussions, but sometimes we think that there are people who are behind these things. Because if you look at the applicants who are before the court, I think for this case alone, we have spent more than 2 million. Look at the applicants, just check them where they are working. Are they able to pay those huge monies? So who's behind that? Who's paying for these legal costs? So I think there's something that we need to deal with as the ANC, and the involvement of business people in the affairs of the ANC to determine the outcome of the conferences.
Mm-hmm. Jackie, your take on all that's happening in the KZN, because I know Advocate Mugai Tobi actually said that they have no problem with current members of the PEC actually being installed as part of that provincial task team. Okay. What they really are seeking was for that order to have been executed, that perhaps National should have agreed for there to be a provincial task team from the onset. What do you think prevented that from happening?
Well, it's also because of the option of appealing, because which is guaranteed by the criminal justice system, by the Constitution of the Republic, that decisions of higher courts are binding and are able to reverse decisions of, courts below them. It's just how.
So you believe that section 17.2 of the ANC's constitution was in fact misinterpreted, or what exactly is it? Because they still maintain that for them it's not about the disbandment of the PEC, okay, but that issue which has far-reaching implications on the ANC.
Well, look, we must also not forget that we are dealing with a political organization which has its own sort of ways and code of conduct. It becomes very difficult to try and run political affairs through the courts as well, because even the reasoning of the court is very narrowly legalistic, So it then there must be space provided also to see if there can be also political solutions, because these are political problems in their nature.
Let's rope in Richard there. Now, Richard, in the event that perhaps the court grants leave to appeal, but also goes on to grant an execution order, what would be the implications there if you had to take us through just that process?
So it would grant the execution order, and most likely it would depend on the court. It would stay the execution order if it grants leave to appeal. So what would happen is they would have to comply with the order, but then they would not have to comply with the order until the appeal is heard. In the alternative, the court could say, well, you have to appeal really quickly, otherwise we're not going to stay this execution order, and then they have to continue with abiding by the order. But it all depends on what happens when the court allows allows for representations for leave to appeal, and what it determines in that leave to appeal. The court has far-reaching, far-reaching powers in that regard.
No, it's a very interesting one, honestly, when we're talking about there being an appeal and also an attempt to execute the order. It's certainly one with a broader discussion. But now on to other ANC matters. The ANC succession race is down to the wire, and members on the ground refuse to be dictated to on their choices. Natasha Piri filed this report for us.
Branches in the Waterberg region of Limpopo are up in arms accusing the PEC of manipulating the BGM process.
Branch delegates that have been delegated by the branch must be verified. Each and every branch must have an opportunity to verify their delegates, because there's very serious allegations to say the branch delegated that have been elected by the branches have been changed.
As the Waterberg, to make sure that the original original copies of the delegate of Waterberg is the one that they must use it, not the photocopy. And in terms of our constitution, if you are a delegate and then the substitute, it comes when a delegate is not available. But at our region, the leadership of the province, they want us to have also the substitute.
The ANC Youth League in the province accuses the provincial chairperson Stanley Mathabata's faction of causing the woes at the Waterberg region because numbers are not in their favor to win the Congress.
The people of Stan Mathabata, they failed. They now come with a motion of intention to interdict. Oh, of course, that motion will be entertained in Congress. Why are they not allowing the Congress to sit? Because it is them who send the Congress must sit, and we said that let's follow the proper processes.
The situation is tense and the provincial office was shut down by protesters demanding that the provincial secretary does a verification process before Congress can go ahead.
The people of Stan Mathabata come here in the office. They go up and down, they destroy organizational properties. They destroy the building of the ANC, a revolutionary house for that matter. And these are the people who are so disparate to lead at any given material respect. Necessarily because they are doing that because numbers are not in their favor. And it's long overdue when we're saying that these people of Steni Mathabata, they are out of order and they must be subjected to the discipline of the African National Congress.
No, the conference is not going to get in. As we have agreed with the leadership of the nation, we want legitimate and original copies.
It seems that there's no end in sight to the issues that are facing the Waterberg region, as some branches accuse the PEC of not verifying their branch members. The question that now remains is if the REC meeting will take place as expected. Natasha Piri, ANN7 at the Franz Motlala House in Polokwane.
We now cross over to our reporter Natasha Piri, who's out in Limpopo. Natasha, take us through the latest there on the Waterberg issues.
Well, very good afternoon to you, Mfundo, and to the viewers at home. Well, the situation actually still remains the same. As you know, that the Waterberg region has time and time again actually postponed the REC meetings due to this problem. Those branch members complaining, saying that the BGM verification process has not been finalized, and they're somewhat disgruntled as to whether the REC meeting will take place this weekend. You're really not sure, but I'm actually joined by Unobala of the ANC Youth League in this region. Chair, thank you so much for joining us at ANC. Just quickly unpack the issues around the Waterberg region. Is it still the same? Are we going to see an REC meeting being postponed yet again?
No, thanks. I must report to the nation that we're sitting here when the court has just dismissed a motion to put the Congress of Waterberg on hold. So the court has dismissed that motion, and the people that went there to raise this motion are the people of Stan Mathabata. Necessarily because, as I've indicated, that Stan Mathabata does not want the Congress of Waterberg to take in, necessarily because he promised people unpromisable promises that he is winning the Congress and therefore everything to him is fine. So unfortunately, people are proving him wrong. People want the Congress to sit in. Even the court confirmed that the Congress must sit in. The PEC of the ANC took a decision, which Stan Mathabata, of course, was part, that the Congress of Waterberg must sit in. So now that just come with delayed tactics and unnecessary misguided tendency to make it a point that the Waterberg Congress is not sitting in.
Thank you so much. And unfortunately, due to time, you're going to have to cut Unobala there, Uche. But according to him, the court has dismissed this and the REC meeting will go ahead as planned. Well, Mfundo, we will give you the latest updates and developments in regards to the story. Back to you in studio.
No, thank you very much to our reporter there, Natasha Piri, out in Limpopo. 'Tis the season of unpromisable promises. Richard actually raised a very pertinent point earlier when he said the ANC cannot be concerned now about matters being finalized in court unless they're going to ask themselves, why do they find themselves in court in the first place?
Correct.
Why do you think most of the issues play out in court?
It's just this rising nature of intolerance between comrades, comrade against comrades. factionalism has just spiraled completely out of control. But what further compounds it and make it almost impossible to resolve is the economic aspect of it, right? There's a lot of money involved. I mean,
access to
you
resources.
had with the KZN saying the people who are advancing this legal process are people of modest means. You know, of course, each faction has its own set of business people who are, are the funders. Why? Because the anticipation is that if I'm a business person and we are friends, if you emerge, you are a politician, then you are in a position to give away tenders and so on and so forth. So that makes it much more difficult for the ANC to come together as comrades, to say, let's have political solutions, because there are others behind the scenes who are pulling the strings.
Richard, your take on Jackie's argument there. Is it a situation of now resources, that this is what divides them, and perhaps that ability at some point to dispense patronage that divides them, and just merely greed?
I think that's definitely one of the largest factors in it, but there's a whole lot of issues. And I think it's just a lack of leadership at your own level. So we see what we saw with the ANCs of days gone by is that the leadership would first look after the grassroots, and then the grassroots would be looked after as well by their seniors, and so on and so on. Whereas the top echelons of the ANC, as rightly pointed out, are mainly looking out for themselves, and the grassroots are now starting to feel disenfranchised. And statistics and surveys prove this. So it's interesting to note that a lot of this factionalism is not necessarily caused at the top. It's caused by the bottom dictating to the top, hey, we want some change.
No, it's interesting to watch. We'll have to see what eventually happens now come Nasrec, if Nasrec will in fact happen. Well, now finally to our poll question. I'm not a doomsayer, I don't know. Now on to this week's poll question. The question is, are state-owned enterprises captured by private interests? Do give us your answers, yes or no, to the platforms that appear on your screens now. And that's where we leave it until next time.